Hello, welcome to the Ninjutsu podcast. I'm your host, Don Rowley. Today we were going to talk about the Kunoichi, the supposed female equivalent of the ninja. Let me just get right to the point. It really is a big exaggeration and kind of a mistake. Let me explain. To understand the Kunoichi, you also have to understand the Tajikata. Okay? So what is a Tajikata? Tajikata, okay. The word for man in Japanese is otoko. And the kanji is composed of, the kanji, the Chinese character that they use, is composed of ta, which is a rice field, above the symbol for power, which is chikara or jikara. So ta, rice field, jikara, power, you put these together, the rice field on top of the power, and you get otoko, man. And the Bansen Shukai is the only source that talks about the Tajikata or the Kunoichi. I mean, this is my translation of the Bansen Shukai and Shoninki, so you can kind of guess that I have gone through every word in this book in detail. So I'm very familiar with the fact that, Tajikata and Kunoichi. Well, again, Kunoichi. If you write out ku in hiragana, no in katakana, which are the phonetic alphabets of Japan, and then add one in kanji, which is ichi, then you get ona, which means woman. So the Tajikata and the Kunoichi are both written about in the Bansen Shukai, but the references, all the references of them are for just cat's paws. People practically grabbed off the street and hired to do something. For example, the Tajikata would get a job at a construction site and then come back and give a little bit of information about how things are being set up so that the ninja can come back and do more thorough examination. The Kunoichi get a job at a place that the ninja wants to sneak into and let him in through the door. Not exactly stuff, on, fighting or picking locks or anything like that. It merely means someone that you hire. And if you hire a man for a man's role, then it's a Tajikata. If you hire a female for a female role like a maid, it's Kunoichi. That's it. You've got to remember that back in the day, Japan was kind of misogynistic. There's plenty of things about being careful about trusting women too much, how they're shallow and weak-willed and all that type of blah blah blah. So yeah, they weren't really exactly willing to entrust too much training and such into them. But that is not to say that females did not engage in espionage. Again, the Bansen Shukai talks about this. One of the wives of a Takeda general assembled a bunch of miko, properly translated as, sometimes translated as shrine maiden, to travel around and gather information. We know very little about them, but the term miko is kind of interesting. As I said, it's frequently translated as shrine maiden. There's a scene in classic Star Trek, Amok Time, when Sulu's running around, aha, and he sees Uhura, and he says, aha, a fire maiden, and Uhura goes, sorry, neither. And how that got by the 1970 censors, I don't know. Because, of course, she's saying she's not fair. She's, kind of like, humble in that case. But maiden, well, means that maiden head. They've got maiden heads, So, and the thing is that, yeah, the Miko, probably not. Nowadays, it's different. Nowadays, you get like college women, make a little extra money selling trinkets or doing a dance at weddings and what have you. But back in the day, Miko had kind of like a nasty reputation back when this was being written. So it's likely that they went around and, two things. One, pillow talk. Okay, they got pillow talk because men are stupid. Joan Rivers wrote a book said men are stupid and they like big boobs, and men are like, yeah. And again, men after they bed a woman, they like to brag and tell about how important they are, which gives good information. But most of the information that these women probably carried back was just observation. I mean, we're used to like Google Maps and information from all around the world. But back then, if you want to know if anything about something, you really, you'd had to, you could listen to a few things, people traveling through the area, but you couldn't be too exact. If you want exact information, like where is, the bridges, where are, are they putting in a lot of supply, stuff like that. You just go in and observe. So these women probably did a lot of that and came back with valuable information without sneaking over any walls or assassinating anybody like that. They did gather information. And really, the Japanese at that time, again, I said they were misogynistic. They really threw away a lot of good potential there. Women in general are damn good at espionage and what was called social engineering. If social engineering is basically like convincing someone to give you information that they really shouldn't most of the time, or clicking on a link or something like that. And women are excellent at it. There's a video on YouTube of a woman getting access to someone's account by calling up customer service. She's got a recording of a baby crying in the background, and she's, I need this now. I don't know what, all that. And the person on the other side of the phone is sympathetic. This is something that women can do, And again, if you think someone is stupid, as the Japanese did back then, the shoninki itself said, that's an advantage. You can use that to advantage. If they think you're not too smart, they're going to say a lot around you and to you that they shouldn't. Harriet Tubman, during the Civil War in America, organized black slaves, servants, to gather information because they would be serving generals and such as they're discussing strategy, and these generals thinking like, oh, they're black, and they didn't think anything of them, would speak freely in front of them. So that's it. The Japanese really kind of dropped the ball on not using females all that much, but the Kunoichi and the Tajikara are referenced in the Banzen Shukai. The Banzen Shukai is the only historical source that calls them Kunoichi, just to show you that. No, it doesn't show up anywhere. So yeah, the Kunoichi wasn't super agents. And in general, talking about females on the battlefield, there's a whole lot of BS out on Facebook, and I'm trying to counter it. Typical things as a Kyoto University study found that 35 of 105 bodies in a mass grave after a battle, DNA says they were female. Females did not typically take up 1/3 of an army. Okay, there were female warriors. You can't say there absolutely was not, but they were so rare that they were commented on when they did appear. Tomoe Gozen is mentioned in the Tale of the Heike Monogatari. She may or may not have filled the role that she was said. The Heike Monogatari is a gunki. They were chanted. It was entertainment. Some of the stuff that they said might have been a bit of an exaggeration. Again, no one really witnessed or claims to have witnessed the end of her and her lover Kiso Yoshinaka. Interesting fact, during the Edo period, a lot of women started learning naginata, and a lot of naginata schools claim to go back to Tomoe Gozen, which is about 500 years before they really went public, so to speak. And there's no mention in the Heike Monogatari of Tomoe Gozen using a naginata. So there's that. Women during the Edo period, ARFPs from about 1600 to about 1853, did learn naginata. A lot of them did. And they were at that point thought to be used for rear area guards, while the men were in the battles on the front lines defending the city, they would be rear guards for things like, defending a bridge so that, nobody could sneak in. If you guys couldn't sneak in, burn it down, and then prevent reinforcements going from one side of the city to the other. Things like that, not roles that really needed too much coordinated fighting ability. And they use naginatas because men had to always wear a sword in public, so they tended to use a sword because that's what they would have if they were attacked. Naginata is a lot more effective ranged weapon if you do not have to fight in formation. I mean, swinging that thing around, if you've got two guys on both sides of you can't swing that around too much. Again, females were like guards in this thing. And during the Aizu campaign, yes, some of them, at the end of the shogunate, the battles that started at, 1860 or thereabouts, some of these women units were thrown into combat. But again, very rare, was not 1/3 of an army. Trust me, not 35 out of 105. Oh boy, did I screw up. I'm going to have to add this in. That 35 bodies, out of 105, women did follow camps when they were on campaign. They did the cooking, they did the ladies in the night thing sometimes. They took care of their men. Sometimes they were lovers or wives of the men on campaign. And generally, when a battle went bad, they were horribly abused and then killed, and then thrown in a mass grave. That's the reason for the 35 out of the 105, most likely. Not that they were warriors on the front line. First question you should ask when you hear something like that: were they wearing armor? And the Kyoto University study that people talk about on Facebook, really, you got to look at the original thing. It's totally different from what people try to say. So that's it. Females warriors existed. Everything existed at any time. Again, there were females fighting, pretending to be men in the American Civil War, in the American War of Revolution, World War II. Okay, but it wasn't like this was a common thing. Okay, just they do not have, in general, the upper body strength. The ones that do, they tend to be very, and did become warriors, were very visible. Joan of Arc, again, if she really fought on the front lines or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, so there's it. Again, females are great at any type of espionage job, really, because men are stupid when dealing with females. Think that, but the same thing, they just aren't used as much as they could be. And that's it for this time around. See you again.